Welcome to the April edition of Ask the Athletic Director. I'm Andy MacWilliams, and with me is Xavier AD Greg Christopher. Greg, we're about 2 weeks removed from the end of the men's basketball season, your first year at the helm. Xavier losing. They made the NCAA tournament but lost in the first round to NC State up in Dayton. Your overall impressions of Xavier basketball?
Well, Andy, it was a great season. It certainly stung that night in Dayton. It was a disappointing way to end the season, and I think anybody would say that. But after a couple of days, or like you said, a couple of weeks, and some perspective, if you played what's that old Price is Right game? Door one, door two, door three. If door one had opened up back in early November and you saw 21 wins, third place in the Big East, semifinals of the Big East tournament, and making it back into the NCAA tournament, I think most people would have taken that. So program's headed in the right direction. Exciting time, but big picture, certainly a good season.
The first year of Xavier's association with the new Big East, did it live up to your expectations? Was it what you thought it would be?
You know, it's from an expectation standpoint, you have to understand I'm new, so my perspective is only Big East. But I think I'll pair what I hear a lot of people say, that probably the biggest difference from A-10 to Big East was probably that every single night was a rugged game. You know, there were no games that you could almost take off and bring your B effort and still get away with a win. In fact, I saw a statistic that our league had the tightest compression of RPIs of any of the major leagues in the NCAA. So again, that gives you a perspective that it's a very difficult league. So to get out with 10 wins, 10 plus wins is what it's going to take probably to be in postseason consideration every year. It's a tough league. So from that standpoint, I think that probably lived up to everybody's expectations.
What about the Big East tournament? New York City, the new look Madison Square Garden. I went to the old Garden a number of times for hockey and basketball. That place, they called it the Mecca, the greatest arena in sports, but as a physical plant, that place was decrepit. It was awful. The new Madison Square Garden, I thought, was spectacular.
It's unbelievable. It's amazing what you can do with $1 billion, right? It showed. It was a great experience for the fans, and we sold almost 800 tickets. So again, a big thank you to Xavier fans who stepped up and made that Xavier East almost for 4 days. But the tournament hit all the expectations. Fox was pleased. We sold the number of tickets we expected. All 3 nights were easily over 14,000 in attendance, and then from a standpoint of just the energy in the building, it was really positive. So again, big picture, the tournament met expectations. Always some things to try to improve on for years ahead, but like the direction that we're headed.
Usually the men's basketball season at Xavier ends with a mid-April banquet. It's a big deal. It's a good meal and a lot of good camaraderie. You're doing something a little bit different this year with the end of season celebration.
Yeah, we're not getting rid of the meal. Don't worry about that. The food's still there.
If it's free, it's for me.
Yeah, we're merging a couple of events. One for the season ticket holders, a thank you event that we've traditionally done as well, and then the banquet, and really again just merging them. So a lot of the awards programming will be with the season ticket holder event. But that's such a valuable audience for us. At the end of the day, those season ticket holders are the people that in so many ways keep this program moving forward. So a way that we can say thank you to them, creating something special for the season ticket holders.
As the basketball season ends, the coaching rumors usually take off. They promulgate, whatever the word, proliferate, I guess is the word. And Chris Mack's name has come up. And what's going on there, if anything? You
know, Andy, again, as the new person, I don't have the perspective, but I sense this is almost an annual rite of spring with Xavier. And again, Chris does a terrific job. The program's headed in the right direction. 3+ decades probably of sustained success. You come to expect this to some degree. Chris loves Xavier. He wants to be here. The thing I've said both privately and publicly is I never want to take that for granted. So I don't want to take for granted that he's a Xavier guy. He deserves to be paid at Big East market, and again, we sustain and support this program at a level that it should be. So Is that a way of talking around an answer? Perhaps it is, but again, Chris and I talk daily, and he's in good shape, I think, here. And you never know what the future could hold, but I feel very good about the program and again, how we're built to be successful in the future.
Xavier plays in a so-called exempt event, usually at Thanksgiving time. It gives you three games for one date on the schedule. But there's been a change geographically in where you're going to go this November and the following November. What happened there?
Andy, the biggest thing is we didn't want to get left out. And you're only allowed to have one school from each conference in those exempt events. And it was fine when we were in the A10. We were a very attractive A10 representative for a lot of these exempt events. Then when we switched to the Big East, we found from a calendar standpoint that there was overlap with multiple Big East schools in some of these events. We got an exemption from the NCAA a year ago. Villanova and Xavier were both in the Bahamas. We weren't sure, and the messaging we were getting, we weren't sure we were going to get that exemption going forward. So we proactively went to ESPN, which runs a lot of these exempt events, and basically moved the chess pieces around so that we could stay in them, as opposed to being the second one in each one of these. We were going to have to find some other exempt event.
So the bottom line is it's California, Orlando versus Orlando, California.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, and I forget the order after that, but we've got these mapped out actually for, I think, the next 4 to 5 years. They're a valuable piece of inventory, scheduling-wise, as you said, in the sense that you get 3 for 1. The opponents are generally pretty attractive, and the destinations for our fans aren't too bad either.
Now, when is the Maui Classic? I guess I should ask Mario
I was afraid you might ask that.
I'm saving my money for that one.
It's on that grid. I just can't remember what year it is out there. So, but we'll make sure you've got a seat on that plane.
Thanks. I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
This August, Xavier is going to make a trip outside the continental U.S. Is it every 4 years you're allowed to take your team on a foreign trip, and Xavier has locked in a good one?
Yeah, the thought process behind that, Andy, was you're allowed every 4 years, and to me, those are so valuable for young teams, especially because more than the trip itself, it's almost like going to a bowl game for football teams. The coaches will tell you it's not the bowl game that's valuable, it's the 15 practices you get. So much like this, forget the trip for a second, even though that'll be terrific for the young men from an educational standpoint, because they're actually going to receive some academic credit that we're folding into it. But it's the practices that they get leading up to the trip. So that was the purpose behind it. Young team, trying to gel early. Let's bring them back in August, be able to start practices. Then the second part was, where do we go? And did a lot of research on that front. And Brazil's a little different than Europe and some other places in that their pro leagues start earlier. So the competition we're going to get in Brazil is higher competition than we'll get in any other place. So that's how we landed on Brazil. The fact that it's just coming off the World Cup and some other things is also somewhat attractive, but that's kind of window dressing. The fact that it's high-level competition, get our team back early and able to get started is the purpose behind going on the trip. And then the timing, I think, is really important with this year with the influx of new players coming in.
A couple of news items that fall into your bailiwick here. First, nationally, some student athletes at Northwestern went to the National Labor Relations Board and wanted to get their opinion as to whether they could unionize, and apparently the initial decision is positive. Yes, those Northwestern players have the potential to unionize. What's going on?
I think the story behind that, Andy, would be, first of all, this is just the beginning. That was a regional ruling, and now it has to go to the national level, and it's a story that's going to take years to unfold. And the other thing is that I would say it's really complicated. Before anybody really starts talking about this, I would encourage them to actually read the ruling, read both sides, and there's a lot of different layers to this. So hard to tell where it's going to end up, but I would have to say that the train wreck that's going to be fascinating to watch in all of this over the next few years is on one side you've got, whether it's the Northwestern ruling, O'Bannon, take your pick of a handful of cases over on this side, all inching or pushing things toward college athletics being a little more market-based or marketplace-based. And then on the other side, you've got kind of a fundamental tenet of Title IX. And how those two fit together will be interesting to see.
Boy, way above my pay grade,
Yeah,
that's for
it's
sure.
above mine too.
Wow.
So.
Call the lawyers,
Yeah, yeah.
bring them in. Locally, Neil Henley, a former Xavier soccer player, has filed a lawsuit, and that's something that Xavier has to deal with.
Yeah, Neil filed a lawsuit, Neil's family filed a lawsuit against the university. Clearly, I can't talk about the lawsuit specifically, obviously, because it's ongoing. The two things I can say that are at the center of the lawsuit, it's a hazing allegation, and then really concussion management, I would say. And when those two issues are both very serious, hazing is clearly a serious issue on any campus, certainly here at Xavier. The only thing here I can say is that when those allegations were made with the incident more than a year ago, the Norwood Police Department investigated it. Xavier's version of the Dean of Students Office investigated it, and in both cases the allegations were unfounded. And I would say the same thing for concussion management. Certainly something Xavier, any university, takes very seriously with any of our student athletes. We've got a first-rate team of doctors, we've got trainers, we've got student trainers, all that are licensed appropriately. So again, serious issues, and we certainly take them that way.
A lot of good fodder for discussion this month, and we'll do it again with the Mayflowers blossoming. And,
Sounds good.
We'll do it then.
Thanks, Andy.